this season?
The answer is Waddle. Waddle's going to have an immediate impact. I mean, the best, I imagine that we agree, Stephen A. Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow is the best combination, but I don't think the Bengals are going to be very good. But I do think the Dolphins are going to be very good. I think Miami's going to be very good. And I think also what you were talking about, Stephen A., remember, I don't know how many weeks ago, how Kyle Pitts is the perfect fit there because Tua would have like a safety valve at tight end who always creates mismatches, and you don't really have to get chunk plays all the way down the field. Waddle's kind of the same thing. You can hand the ball to him. You can run a little bubble screen. You can just get him out in a little bit of space. It can be a short pass, and he can break you off a TD run, or at least a huge chunk play. And because of the leverage that he will have, in other words, like the Dolphins are already a good team. They're challenging. And I think Tua will be an ascending quarterback. And I think Waddle's presence there will accelerate all of that and be very obvious to us. So I'm going to go with Jalen Waddle.
You know what? I can't argue with that. I'll try, but I'll openly admit I can't argue with that because that would have been my choice as well. I just have a sneaky feeling because Waddles is just electrifying. This brother, this speed, this breakaway speed, and his route run. I mean, it's something special to behold. But you know what? I saw Devontae Smith do that too in his absence. I saw Alabama not miss a beat when Waddle went down because they had Devontae Smith. And when I think about Devontae Smith in Philly with a Rager, okay, now Hurts, it's going to come down to him and his accuracy throwing the football. It's a familiar target that he'll be throwing that football to, make no mistake about it. But in the end, I just view it from the standpoint that the Eagles being in the NFC East, I think that when you look at Waddle and you look at the rest of the AFC East, it's New England, it's Miami. I'm sorry, it's not Miami because he's on Miami, but New England and Buffalo. I think it's going to be a tougher time for him to do the kind of things that he's capable of doing, because I think it's going to be a tougher time for Tua to really get him the football. Nevertheless, I look at the Eagles and I look at them being in the NFC least with Dallas, Washington, even though their defense is real, and of course the New York Giants. And I think the chances of success, considering the discipline that Devontae exercises, the fact that you're not looking for somebody that's just going to break it for you every single play. You're not looking for the home run. If as undersized as Devontae Smith is, I think the potential with his route running, his precision, him knowing football the way that he does, his reliable hands, et cetera, plus some speed to boot, and you look at what he's bringing to the table with Rager on the other side, I think that he might have an immediate impact even more so than Waddle, even though I'm not trying to say he's better, because I think Waddle is sensational, and so is Devontae Smith.
Well, look, if you look at, I mean, I know that like you also see the logic in Waddle, but if you look at the Dolphins, usually teams drafting as high as they drafted, and they traded back and still drafted up high, it's because they stink, like the Bengals, right, or the Eagles. That's right. Why usually you and so. Really, Jamar Chase and Devontae Smith are going to bad teams. They're not going to good teams. And the difference is Miami drafted where they drafted through trades. Originally, they got that number 3 pick through a trade. They were a very good team. And so you have that going for Waddle in the first place. And then the next thing is Jalen Hurts and Tua were on the same team, and Tua was better and preferred. And so, like, we know that the Dolphins have a better quarterback. At least he was better in college. I mean, he was preferred by universally in college. And so now you have a guy throwing to whatever you want to say about Tua so far in the pros. And remember, he's coming off a catastrophic injury.
Hold on, is something going on here? Yeah, we inquired, and it was a quick into the conversation. It wasn't happening.
It's going to be very hard for a rookie to come in and beat Jimmy Garoppolo out. He's a very good player. And that's why I like the situation that we are in. Now, we'll see where Trey's at. We'll see how he does in OTAs. I love that we're getting those. I love that he's going to come here tomorrow. We're going to be able to talk to him in person. But Jimmy's our quarterback right now.
Jimmy G did lead the Niners to a Super Bowl. Whatever, Stephen A. Don't be disrespectful and don't be rude. Hi, Dan Orlovsky. Dan, I really enjoyed you guys on Get Up this morning. You and Al and RC. The show was a lot of fun. All right, Stephen A., I'll start with you. Yeah. Should Jimmy G have to compete with Lance?
Not at all. He should be traded. Matter of fact, I'm shocked he's not going already. I'd be surprised if he still remained around by the end of this weekend. He should be gone. Jimmy Garoppolo is not wanted in San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan just looked into the cameras and lied to the American public. I'm not faulting him for it. I understand where he's coming from because the guy is your quarterback until he's no longer your quarterback. But Kyle Shanahan does not want Jimmy G to be his quarterback any longer. Kyle Shanahan doesn't have faith in Jimmy G any longer. That's the reality of the situation. Now, a big reason to that would be the fact that Jimmy G has completed 4 seasons in San Francisco, essentially, really 3.5 because he came there with about 5 games left the first go round. Jimmy G has played in 30 games. 30 games as the San Francisco 49ers. 30 games out of a possible 53, 54 games, whatever the number is, because you got those 3 complete seasons. He's essentially missed 2 seasons for the San Francisco 49ers. And even when he's been there, although they've won games, you've got to rely on everybody. You got to the Super Bowl because you had the number 1 defense in the National Football League. You had an elite secondary. You had Bosa leading an incredible pass rush. You had a stout running game with Monster, Tevin Campbell, and those boys. And then on top of it all, you had George Kittle, and you had the play calling of Kyle Shanahan. And I lean on the greatness of Steve Young, the former 49ers great and Hall of Famer, who came on my show, Stephen A's World, the other day. And he highlighted how when you're the head coach, you want to be able to trust the quarterback will protect you. You don't want to have to preoccupy yourself with wondering whether he can protect you, and you got to extend yourself protecting him from himself. You need to know he can protect you. That's not how Kyle Shanahan views Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo needs to go because he's not wanted. And why would you want Trey Lance around a guy that's on his way out where a clear statement has been made, you're not wanted here any longer? Why would you even want to subject Trey Lance to that kind of environment? Get rid of Jimmy G by the weekend if you can and move on.
Well, why subject Patrick Mahomes to the kind of environment when they're sending a message to Alex Smith that they don't want him around anymore? Because you're trying to win a Super Bowl. And the first season, you think Alex Smith gives you the best chance, but long-term, you think Mahomes does. Look, let me just say, Dan knows better than we do. You're always competing for everything in the NFL. I'm not saying there's no competition, but so let's get past that, okay? Like, we know what we're talking about here. No, they shouldn't compete. The job should be Jimmy Garoppolo's, and I'll tell you why. When you look at this Niners team, they look good. They look good on paper. And the last time they were intact, although there's been turnover, but the last time they were intact, they were in the Super Bowl. And Shanahan, Mina Kimes was on the show yesterday, Dan, talking about, look, I don't know about Shanahan's quarterback evaluation, but as a play caller, he's brilliant. And he dialed up the right play. Right. Jimmy G missed it. Maybe next time he hits it. But they were 1 pass away from beating Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs for Mahomes' only Super Bowl. 1 pass away, just overthrew Emmanuel Sanders. So you can win a Super Bowl with Jimmy G. I think that doesn't prove to me you can't. It proves to me you can. You think he's going to miss that throw every time? He can't ever hit that throw? Okay. So then the question becomes, what do you do with Trey Lance? Well, here's where Trey Lance could be dangerous. He has maybe the most upside in the draft, tremendous upside. Maybe they think they got another Patrick Mahomes. But if he's good enough to bump Jimmy G, let me just tell you something. You're not going to win a Super Bowl with a rookie quarterback. At least it's never happened before. So why not model this after the last time this really worked? You had a good veteran quarterback who is clearly capable of being a quarterback on a playoff team. In Garoppolo's case, I believe winning a Super Bowl. You keep him there, especially when you have a guy with enormous upside, but maybe the highest ceiling and the lowest floor because he's inexperienced. Get him that experience for a year, holding the clipboard. Look, Jimmy G might get hurt, and then Trey Lance, it solves itself. But if not, Trey Lance then takes over a team which should be a Super Bowl contender this year with Jimmy G going forward in the best scenario, best of all worlds situation. I think you keep Jimmy G, and he's the starter.